Well, hello, everyone. Thank you. Welcome. It's December 4th. It's December, weeks before Christmas, and the year has just gone by so fast. We had Honorable Brian Peckford on tonight. I really encourage you to watch the Empower Hour. It will be available in the description below. Next week, I will be the special guest on the Empower Hour, and I'm going to be talking about Action for Canada wins and our year in review. And so that will be, I think, very encouraging to Canadians. Like, we are really making some tremendous advancements. All right, so this is the weekly news update. As I said, it's December 4th, so I'm just going to start with by sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. Here we are. And how's that looking? Okay, so for you, those of you who are new, this is what Action for Canada looks like nationwide. We just encourage you to follow us. If you haven't signed up already, please do so. Join Action for Canada, join a local chapter. If you don't have one near you, I would even encourage you to sign up with the chapter that's nearest to you. You can email them, get involved, and maybe by attending some of their online meetings or engaging with the chapter leader, you may get some information. Get a few friends together and decide to run a chapter yourself, because we have amazing campaigns and strategies going on in communities across the nation. All right, again, here's my Twitter account. I just bring it up for fun every week. I've been enjoying this. Look at this, 2,384. The other day it was up to 2,397, and I just go right back down again. I don't get it. I've never seen anything like this for somebody that's been in this game for 9.5 years to hardly reach 2,400 with such a fight. But that's okay. That means Action for Canada is doing really, really good work. We're a threat to some people. I would think Elon Musk, I would think X would be the best platform. It's the only one that's really not, I thought, wasn't censoring me, but yeah, there's just no gain there. So if you can help me out, or even if you're somebody that's an X expert, send me some information on call2@actionforcanada.com and tell me how we can get our information out, because yeah, it gets a little frustrating when we're doing, I mean, I think I worked 11 hours yesterday on an action that I'll be talking about tonight. And then, we're going to send it out to the masses. We have a huge email list. And then sometimes I'm like, are they blocking the Gmail accounts? Is it all going to people's spam? Are they checking their spam? Because I can't be on YouTube. We can't, it's terribly censored on Facebook. And, but that's like a badge of honor that the Action for Canada team is wearing right now. So how we're getting our information out is we have these wonderful chapter leader meetings every single Monday. And when we commence an action, they go out nationwide. The government can't stop us because these are in-person Zoom meetings where we're seeing each other, face to face, and we're saying, yeah, we acknowledge we're getting this. Thanks for the campaign. We're going to put that strategy in action. And then our people are getting it out at the community level in in-person meetings. And so it's just fabulous. I think it is the best strategy of war going on in this country. We just need more people learning about it and more people joining us, because that's how we win elections as well. We could win all community elections, like I'm talking local government, provincial elections and federal elections, because these local communities could really build in number. And then what we would find is that we would go door knocking and do all sorts of great things and get our people elected. Okay, so one of the great things, an action we did this week, and great news, I've been talking to you about what's going on in the Winnipeg metropolitan region. And I didn't realize, I don't know that I announced this last week, because I was talking to Pierre and I said, Pierre, whatever happened with that event that was that second public meeting that was supposed to take place? And he's like, they gave up on it because we had so many people. They just couldn't find a location large enough. And the WMR, the Winnipeg Metropolitan Region, was sort of put together by the Manitoba government so that they could take over the 18 I call them municipalities. They're called a little something different. Sorry, MBs. I can't remember right now. I'll call them municipalities. And, to take away the voice of our elected officials representing us, the power of them. Anyways, Pierre's doing a massive job there. I keep talking about it, and I want to just keep encouraging people that Action for Canada's 15-minute city campaigns and strategies are working, but it only works when people show up and support our chapter leaders. Sometimes we have chapter leaders with 5 people that show up, and they can do a lot. They can achieve good things, but nothing compared to what can be achieved if we have hundreds of people showing up, 1,000 people showing up, like what happened with Pierre. And so I just really encourage you. I'm just going to keep driving it down there. We need you. You can't stay home. We all want to be out Christmas shopping and getting things for, our family. I've got my tree sitting right here. It's a fake tree. And I hauled it out of the crawl space at least a week ago. So it sat in the bag on the floor for a week. And then, I don't know, maybe it's got to be over a week. And then I set it up, and there it is, just waiting for me to put the lights and everything on. I don't know. It might be tonight. I just need the energy to do it. I'm so tired. And yet I can't stop fighting. But that's what I'm saying. There's those of us on the Action for Canada team that are sacrificially giving of our time, and we're just asking for your support in return by showing up at a few events once in a while. It would mean so much to us. And you know what? Take a chapter leader out for coffee. Take them out for lunch and wish them a Merry Christmas. That you really appreciate what they're doing. That's something I want to really encourage as well, because they don't get paid. Action for Canada, I say we're a multi-million-dollar organization if we had the funds coming in for the work we're doing. If you compared us to those radical trans LGBTQ NGOs that are getting paid billions of dollars from the government, tax dollars, your tax dollars, and Action for Canada, I think it was somewhere around $390,000 that we gratefully brought in last year. But the majority of the money, right, goes towards our tech and keeping the organization running and going, as well as printing materials. And so you could do so much at the community level by making sure you're donating to the printed materials that are, they raise the funding at the community level, and then we're advising parents of the horrible things that are going on inside the schools with the SOGI 123 or Win Sex Ed flyers. And with the 15-minute city flyers, our chapters are going door to door and putting them in people's mailboxes. We need people showing up at city meetings and school board meetings, and this is the way that we're doing it. We're placing these truth bombs in just the right places. But anyways, support us. Come out and support a chapter leader today. Consider becoming a chapter leader. It would be great. Okay, as I mentioned, we had Brian Peckford, Honorable Brian Peckford, on the show because I think it's extremely important to continue to emphasize that Canada is a Christian nation. All of our freedoms and democracies completely rests on it. And you can go look at all other nations built on other faith systems, and every single one are living under oppression and tyranny. And as we've removed God, we've got a tyrannical government. And I keep saying, pick a side. You don't have to be a Christian to live in Canada to enjoy the Christian biblical principles. But if you don't like the way things are going under multiculturalism, secularism, and a post-national state, that it seems like the choice is pretty simple. And BC government cites Christmas as a reason to deny Christian Heritage Month. Now, I love it that people have gone out and they're proclaiming they're wanting a Christian Heritage Month because, like, April is Sikh Heritage Month, which is nonsense, and October, November is Muslim Month, which is total nonsense. This is Canada, all right? If you want to celebrate Islam, go to 56 Islamic majority countries, because it ain't working so well there, and we don't want to celebrate it here, and it shouldn't. It's not a Christian principle. You don't align with our Christian biblical principles, so why is there a month to celebrate anti-Christian principles? It's really odd what's gone on in Canada and what we've let people get away with. And then there's Sikh month. Although there's very nice Sikh people, Hindus in my neighborhood, my neighbors out back, super duper nice. Although they've been in Canada probably 28 years and they hardly speak English, which that's a problem. You know, I could see if they were 80 and they moved to Canada, I wouldn't expect them to speak English, but we have to bring a government in that's going to mandate everybody speak English or French. Okay, one of the two official languages. That's just it. So Christian cities across Canada are recognizing Christian Heritage Month. The only problem with that is this is a Christian nation. Every day is Christian Day. All right. So, but it's a good start. And the fact that BC, radical socialist BC, would try to deny it is no surprise. And that's why I need people to help me on this committee. Thank you to the one lady that reached out to me. She's going to be helping me on this committee to expose the corruption that took place in the BC NDP election. They stole the election. And you may be having this going on in other provinces. So you need to be demanding right now with a team and a committee that the provincial commission, elections commission, whoever that is, that they put mandates in place that prohibit the voting machines. And as well, whatever else it is, that no vouching, I've got a few things on our list that we're going to be expressing as well. But in BC, there has to be a re-election to address these things. But you just can't say, oh, well, it's bigger than me. You have to be involved in bringing about the change. Get involved in the local associations before the next election so you can say who the candidate will be in your riding. These are very important steps to take. Okay, I'm just going to play this. We were talking about Canada being a Christian nation, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the rise of the Native activism in Canada. It is getting way out of hand, but so it's meant to be. I really appreciate Douglas Murray. He is an investigative reporter in the UK. He does a great job. And so I'm just going to play this short clip. And it had to do with all this, whether it's in New Zealand with the Maoris, so-called indigenous in Western, other nations, America and Canada, Aborigines in Australia. No matter what it is, he just brings a little bit of reality to what people were facing when they entered these countries and the natives, were in the land. So here we go.
I'm sorry. Who were the Maoris historically? Were they men and women of peace who sat around idyllically farming and having an Edenically civilized life? Or were they brutal, brutal people who did terrible things to each other and to people they met? The trade in decapitated human heads as a tool of bartering to buy goods, including muskets, by the early 1800s. I'm sorry, I'm not willing to have my own culture ransacked and turned through this lens of pure evil, and simultaneously be expected to pretend that the Maoris or the indigenous people of Australia were these proto-Gandhi-esque figures, sort of Mother Teresa with a bit too much beheading. No, this is totally untrue. And it's an obvious attempt to subjugate people in the West to a false ideology and a false version of our own past. So no, I mean, all of the sort of, the combination of the two of these things, the wild distortion of Western history, the negative interpretation of all of Western history, is bad on its own, but combined with this Edenic, Vaseline-lensed interpretation of everyone else, no. You might just about get away with one of those things, but not both, and not both at the same time. No way.
All right. So, as we know, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum are working to destroy, annihilate, all right, sovereignty in Western Christian European nations. And one of the means of how they're going about that is through the diversity, equity, inclusion, critical race theory, white supremacy, colonialism, victimizing the natives. It's interesting that through none of this are they ever going after the Muslims. I've repeated this, but because I feel a real need that we have to make sure that we're asking the right questions. How serious is the United Nations about this colonialism? Why is it that they're not persecuting Muslims and telling them that they need to pay reparations to the Christians where they came into these countries and literally slaughtered them? And when the Europeans came to Canada, they did not come in slaughtering the natives. In fact, it was quite the opposite. And as I showed you, I believe last week or the week before, we have to, be willing to learn the facts and look outside of what it is that the government has been pushing on us, I would say for a decade, but since Trudeau came in, he has really ramped up the United Nations campaign to destabilize Canada using the natives. He came in all about they changed it from Indians to natives to Indigenous to Aboriginals, whatever it is, all right? Just put all that aside and ask yourself the question, have the Liberals done anything that really showed they cared about the Indigenous people? Have they made their lives better? No, they've enriched a lot of corrupt chiefs, not all of them, but a lot of them. There are Native activists, many of whom are not even Native. We'll get to that. They're Pretendians. They're non-Natives. They're faking it, like Randy Boysenalt, so that he could sign on to the COVID deal to run his business and get money from the government. Complete frauds, liars, and cheats. And so we'll dive into that a little bit more. But this is a book, and it's an account, a historical, true fact account of in 1803, when John R. Jewett had come to Canada, and 25 of his of those on the ship with him had been beheaded. And then they lined up, the Nootka Indians had beheaded all of them except for him and one other gentleman who became their slaves. And every day they were concerned about their life and if they would survive this. There are many stories. Remember, there were 640 tribes, over 640 tribes in Canada. There was no unification. They were all fighting over land. There was scalping. There was poverty. There was all kinds of, it was hard to live on the land in Canada. And at some point they had immigrated to Canada as well. And the Europeans came to Canada. It was hard living off the land, as you can imagine, in the vast nature that we have here, and then think about those who traversed from the East Coast to the West Coast as well, and the types of things that they would have to overcome. All right, so this is an action that I will be launching. We had Michelle Sterling on recently to talk about Sugarcane, the documentary that is going to be coming out on December 9th through National Geographic, Disney Plus, and Hulu. Now, they never did any research, but I'm telling you that Michelle Sterling sure did, because she proved that sugarcane is based on lies. There were some truths, like a Native lady had a baby. She was not raped by a priest. It was actually the man that she was with was Native, and she put the baby in a burner. It was not and it was not a priest or the church or the school that put it in an incinerator. There were no incinerators. It was a milkman that rescued the baby. There are so many lies in sugarcane, and they went worldwide to promote this fake documentary And basically, it's a blood libel against the Catholic Church and Canadian history. So now, countries around the world who have seen this documentary are strategically, this is what Trudeau and the United Nations are conspiring on, are framing Canada as a genocidal nation. The other person I want to discuss this action. So it's going to be, the action will be to repeal UNDRIP, ban sugarcane, and commence an investigation against several people. So I have just a small overview here at the beginning, and I'm asking you to copy and paste these emails. It's really easy. You just copy them, pop them into your email, and then you would go and copy this email. You just scroll down, copy it, and throw it into your email as well. But the other person of interest here is Kimberly Murray, and she's a possible pretendian. When you go into this link and the research that has been done on her, her mother was Irish. She actually her mother came to Canada, I want to say when she was 8 years old or so. You have to go into the document and see it. And then it goes into detail who her father was, and they're not Native, and nor were her grandparents. And so it's getting very disturbing, and I've got to say a little frustrating to find out how many people are on the front line of this Indigenous rights issue and these reparations and these massive payouts who are not even Native, who had never attended an Indigenous school. And Kimberly Murray herself admits she spent summers, I believe it was, down in California. And the people that know the majority of Natives in Canada didn't go down on holidays, spending their time in California. So what she has done is she's taken this Indigenous-led reparations framework for missing and disappeared children and unmarked burials without any proof whatsoever. This report has come out, and there isn't any evidence, not provided any list of missing or disappeared, that's a new phrase, children after 113 years of Indian residential schools. And as you know, I've reported previously, and it's a fact, I get hate mail over this, that I'm saying the burial graves, they're empty. And that the diseases that the natives had to address, like tuberculosis, the Europeans had to face, and there's massive deaths within the European community as well. So it's time and time and time for Canadians to start taking a step back. Your knee-jerk reaction has been to even persecute people like myself or Michelle Sterling. There's a former judge, Mr. Giesbrecht, who is coming out, Brian Giesbrecht and others. There are so many people coming out now supporting historical documents, proving that yes, there may have been some abuse at the schools, as there are in so many ranging, not saying this didn't happen, but whatever happened 150 years ago, I didn't take any part in, nor did my parents or your parents. And in fact, what's coming out now is more and more reports about how loving the people who were in the schools taking care of the children were. I was listening to, it was the first time I've heard of these two gentlemen who've written a book, and this one individual, he's got to be in his late 70s or so, he actually attended the schools because his dad was a pastor, and his dad decided to be a principal of two of the schools, and he couldn't believe any of this, how it was, how people were being maligned once this started coming out about the abuse that took place in these schools. He was real immersed in the schools and never saw any part of it. And so can you imagine how dishonorable it is to the individual? He said there was 3 young girls, they were all sisters who were orphans. They had no parents, probably died of TB. And they were kept in the schools like throughout the summers when the schools should have been closed, as these people took care of them and they loved on them. And there needs to be a proper balance. As I've mentioned previously, I know people personally from Europe who were abused in, situations. We had a teacher at school, I've got a twin brother, And I remember the teacher striking my brother in the school. They used the ruler, they used the strap at school when I was young. I never got it. Just saying, I never got it. I was good. But you know what? That was there. It was, I can tell you, Billy got it. He was one of the kids in the school in my classroom, and he was just that little troublemaker, you know. But this just happens to be a fact of the day, and we have to put everything properly in perspective. Another problem within the document that I added today, it'll hopefully come out tomorrow, is Gary Anadasanagari. He's the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. He's from Sri Lanka. Okay, he came from Sri Lanka when he was 8 years old, and we're going to take a look at who this individual is now, and he's the Minister of Crown Indigenous Affairs Relations. Here he is, and prior to being an MP, he was the chair of the Canadian Tamil Youth Development Centre, president of the Canadian Tamils Chamber of Commerce, and counsel to the Canadian Tamil Congress. So I was looking at this, and isn't that the Tamil? It's not the Tamil Tigers, but isn't that the same? And it's, yeah, in Sri Lanka, there were the Tamil Tigers. So I start to dive into it a little bit more. But first it goes, here he is. He's been Crown Indigenous Relations is more than just apologies. It's about setting the record straight. He's the embodiment of the Crown, which means Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary, I'm sorry, I can't say his last name right, and I don't want to disrespect him, is the unlikely face of white colonialism in Canada. I'm already offended. And he goes, or at least its historical legacy. Like any other Canadian, he may not be personally responsible for the sins of Canada's past. Today, however, the minister is politically accountable for solutions of the future. As a Tamil immigrant from Sri Lanka, also colonized by the British Crown, he is especially conscious of the colonial history that touches all Canadians. As a human rights lawyer and community activist in his previous life, he had been thinking about it since long before he entered politics decades ago. So let's go a little bit deeper. There are reports, and I'm encouraging others to investigate this. I certainly will be investigating it further, which is questioning his ties to Tamil Tigers funding and support. On July 17th, Gary attended book launch on Prabhakaran in Scarborough together with this fella David, and this fella is tied to the Tamil Tigers. Gary was part of events marking the death of same individual. The LTTT, which is this terrorist organization, is noted by AP journalist on the 13th. So Gary's in defense of it. And so the more I was looking into this, I'm like, is this for real? Like, is this who is in the Liberal Party and is representing the natives? Okay, so is counsel to CTC. He's a lawyer, and he worked something to do with the United Nations, and as well, so he's counsel to the CTC, which is a designated terrorist entity. So my suspicions, I'm not saying that he's a terrorist, but I'm like, okay, why would we have somebody with all these terrorist connections as a minister in the Liberal Party, and he's not even born and raised in Canada, and he doesn't embrace our Christian principles? So calling it the leading fundraiser in Canada for the Tamil Tigers. So this was that, I believe, the CLT. The federal government has listed the World Tamil Movement as a terrorist organization. So it's just some red flags for me. But getting to the point of it is that he made this huge apology for something that didn't even happen. It didn't take place. And it had to do with natives in the United States that are coming into Winnipeg and claiming land. and that they were actually being in the wars in America were different with the natives than they were in Canada. We didn't have wars with them where they were slaughtering one another, but some of that went on in the U.S. and the natives would come up into Canada to seek refuge. And this one particular group of natives who had come into Canada had actually slaughtered a bunch of innocent European families because they thought, well, we better take care of the problem now because these British, they were British colonists. Sorry, I should refer to it that way. I believe, and rather than them increase, we may as well just slaughter them now. Well, anyways, in the long run, they were assisted with refugee, and clearly Britain and Canada had a rule of law that would never have honored or recognized incoming refugees as citizens who had brutally violated and murdered women and children, no matter how provoked they were. So they were granted asylum. And now this minister is treating them as if they were citizens. So what's next? Are there going to be reparations? They came here as refugees and they didn't expect any land entitlements, but now they're trying to claim that. This was just the information about this gentleman. As I say, I'll skip through a little bit of what I just covered. And so now the minister and President Chartrand are to sign a historical self-government treaty with the natives. This was November 30th of this year. Do you see what's going on behind our backs? They are using the natives to advance this very aggressive global agenda to undermine our sovereignty and claim Canadians are on stolen land. We're not on stolen land. We came in peacefully and we created a commonwealth. The 640 tribes were infighting and there was not unity. They did not, it was not in many, majority of the tribes, it was not civilized. And so the Europeans came in and blessed us with an incredible nation that prospered. And I am not going to acknowledge land rights. I'm not going to fall into any more of this. This is to our demise. Okay, minister apologizes for government's handling of First Nations money in 1800s. In 1800s, okay? Like I said, this has got to stop. Last week, I had reported on how we apologized for 1,000 dogs that were killed 150 years ago. And now, granted, that would be hard because that's how natives, the Indians got around at that time. But then it came in about how the dogs had, somebody can remind me. I'm not looking at the chat right now. Never mind. Anyways, there was it's a typical disease that dogs have. And the dogs as you know, you see them on the reserves now are walking around free and live, and they had attacked some children and killed them. And so they came in and the RCMP slaughtered the dogs. They put them down. And so there's so many things that they'd already been given something like $1.5 million back in 2013 by the provincial government. Now the federal government is finding anything and everything they can, and it's just got to stop. It's exhausting. There's lots of people who have been harmed in Canada. It's not just the natives around the world that have suffered just grotesque things after enduring war and other things. I would encourage you to follow and subscribe to Michelle Sterling on Substack. This lady knows how to do her research. She provides evidence. And so she has done an excerpt here, a report, an in-depth report on this ridiculous post that Minister Gary had put, when was that? That was not too long ago. He says, for too long, Canada failed to recognize the 9 Dakota and Lakota First Nations as Aboriginal peoples of Canada with constitutionally protected rights. These are the ones I'm just talking about who were American and came and escaped to Canada to get away from the fighting, that they came here for refuge. Okay. And they said, we have no claim to land. They said that. It's even, and Michelle, she provides all of the evidence. So Contrary to the minister's apology, the incoming American Indians, who were said to be allies of the British, were not betrayed. They were assisted with refuge, and clearly Britain and Canada had a rule of law that would have never honored or recognized incoming refugees as citizens who had brutally violated and murdered women and children, no matter what provoked these attacks. So facts matter. The truth matters. So what's going on, Honorable Gary? I don't get it. What are you trying to prove here? You're trying to frame us as this horrific genocidal nation for what purpose other than to facilitate a foreign body from infiltrating Canada and taking over our land and our resources. That's what this is all about. This is treason. Okay, so this is brand new. Private land in New Brunswick subject to Indigenous title claim after Canadian court ruling. A New Brunswick court has ruled that Aboriginal, now it's Aboriginal, Natives, Indians, Aboriginal title, or the legal means by which Indigenous people claim property can be used on privately held land in the Canadian province if Indigenous nations go through the movement to do so. The court decided the ruling earlier this month, and it may set the precedent of Aboriginal title being used to challenge the legal standing of property owned by corporations. You can see where this is going as well. I hope you are getting a clear picture of what is happening right under your noses. Be very careful. This is from Exodus 34:12. I'm going to keep reading it every week, maybe. Be very careful never to make a treaty with people who live in the land where you are going. If you do, you will follow their evil ways and be trapped. We're trapped right now, and we need to tear up these treaties, and we need to stop all agreements because they're being abused. Okay, we were kind. The Europeans were kind coming in. We didn't come in war and slaughtering. We came in signing treaties and making agreements. And instead, all of that is now being abused. And it was never the intention of these treaties when they were created. Just like when we had Brian Peckford just on, we had agreed that the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is being abused. It is being used and misaligned and misinterpreted. And that's the exact same thing that's happening. The United Nations and Trudeau government being signed on with them as the arm of the UN. These people are talking hats, and they are advancing agendas that were never signed onto. And we better be willing to get up and fight. So I hope when I launch this agreement, you will take the time. It's only a few minute reads. It looks long, but I didn't know what to take out. The information's so important. And I would like to see this go out to the media en masse. I should provide the link to that actually in the action. And as well, take your time and send it to every single sitting MP. They need to be notified, and Canadians we're done with the billions of dollars of our tax dollars is what's being spent on this political pandering and this United Nations takeover. This is robbery, this is theft, and this is treason, and we still need to start using the language. Okay, so then I'm going to go on to, this was just, I saw this headline, and I don't often address the issue of abortion. We're working on it in the background. When I talk to certain individuals, there's organizations in Canada where this is their number one issue, and they're working very hard. Their expertise in legislation is amazing, but we are the only developed nation in the world that has no abortion legislation. And this really hit me. Scientists demand ban on boiling live crabs, which I hate to say I agree with. I can't stand it. I don't eat crab because I'm just like, what are you doing to those crabs, right? Anyways, but because they feel pain, but aborting babies still okay. And in the abortion process, they are pulling babies' limbs off their bodies. And in Canada, abortion is legal all the way up to full term. This is disgusting, and this grieves God. And we've been talking a lot about Canada being a Christian nation, and boy, isn't it God just giving it to us. We're suffering big because we have not taken this seriously enough. Trudeau wants to say we're not having enough children. Well, it doesn't help when they're aborting hundreds of thousands of the population, and they're not teaching our kids about waiting until marriage to have sex. And instead, in the school system, they're promoting it and promoting abortion. Something is very sick in Canada. It's become very dark, and through prayer and repentance, we can turn it around. Okay, Brian was on with me on the Empower Hour, and we were talking about what happened in France. And this is massive. I was reading about it last week, and I decided not to report on it. I thought, I'll wait to see how this goes. But they had a non-confidence vote in France. And if you'll remember, Macron became president, and he appointed this guy, Michael Barnier, to become the prime minister. And everybody hates the left now. I mean, they can't stand the globalists. And so the French government is collapsing, as well as I think it's West Germany is not working out well either. They had a minority government. They're doing it based on the finance and the budget. They're broke. So Emmanuel Macron is going to have to figure out who he can put in as the prime minister. But, you know, he stole the election from Marine Le Pen. He did it legally, but he pulled a fast one. And Marine Le Pen, I mean, she is the one talking about immigration and all the things that are important to us, that are important, as well as talking about putting Christianity first in many of these nations. Everybody is feeling the persecution. This is enough. We need to return to God, and God is answering prayers in the nations that are doing that. But we need you on the front line out there fighting with us. Okay, I always do a little financial thing, and there's lots going on. And so this was back from 2016. Just hear what this fella has to say about cash.
The problem is we are going to a digital currency society where cash will be gradually eradicated, either through non-use, or a lot of countries and a lot of governments are trying to actively ban it. So they're putting limits on how much you can use cash, say, you know, $1,000, and if it's more than $1,000, using cash is illegal. When we go to the society, we have to really think about the implications. Do we want a society in which our digital money is under complete surveillance and complete control, where if you go to the wrong protest, or if you support the wrong political campaign, or if you make a payment to the wrong person or receive money from the wrong person, suddenly your money disappears. It's no longer yours anymore. It's frozen, it's seized, it's gone. And someone has control of that. Corporations, banks, governments, and in most cases, there is no difference between corporation, bank, and government, right? And so that's one scenario. And the other scenario is one in which individuals control their money. And it is digital money, but it's digital cash like Bitcoin, where you can pay an individual from one person to another, just like I can with cash today, without any other party getting involved. What really strikes me as amazing is that we've gotten used to this idea so quickly, which is that we no longer pay people. We no longer pay people directly. The less we use cash, the more we pay people through a corporation, right? So from tipping your valet to tipping your taxi driver to tipping wherever, tipping is pretty much the last remaining part of our society where cash is used to pay from one person who is not an incorporated entity to another person who is not an incorporated entity. Everything else you have to pay through a corporation, whether it's a bank, right? Whether it's Venmo, whether it's PayPal, whether it's any of those things. And we've gradually gotten used to this environment where we can't pay another person unless there's a corporation involved. And that's astonishing to me. And as cash disappears, that then becomes a final fact, that every single payment in your life will be from you to a corporation.
And that corporation takes a piece of that, every single thing.
And not just that, it doesn't just take a piece, it also controls and surveils and monitors your use. And if you violate the terms and conditions, you are destitute.
Wow.
So the issue is not what...
So, all right. We've been hearing, that's back in 2016. I personally use cash once in a while. If I forget to bring some cash with me or take some cash out, I will use my debit, maybe filling up the car. I might use debit. But anyways, I don't like using the credit cards. I don't like giving any of these individuals, the extra... And I pay everything off every single month. I'm not going to pay them interest. But people are living outside of their means, and you really need to learn to live within your means. And I'm going to have Tanner Naday back on the show in January. I thought that'd be a great way to start the year off, is talking about our finances and how to save. So we'll speak more about that. But if we don't use cash, we're going to lose it. And here was another article. It just came out. Oh, sorry. It was June 30th. Canada sleepwalking into cashless society. Consumer advocates warn. And so I just wanted to emphasize again tonight, please, you know what? Use cash so quickly. So a lot of you even have tap. I turn the tap off. I don't want the tap. There's just certain reasons I do that. Sometimes fraud can take place. You can't make it so easy, but I know it's cool. I'm going to get my Starbucks and I'm going to use my tap. And but first of all, going to Starbucks isn't cool. Not if anybody from the freedom movement sees you. Okay, you should be boycotting them, as well as Tim Hortons. Come on, let's support other local coffee shops and not these globalist traders. And anyways, again, there's that little side trap. I'm just going down there. So anyways, use cash. The point is use cash. Starbucks doesn't even take cash. I had to go through once. This was like last year with my daughter-in-law. I needed something. It was a $100 bill and I needed it changed. The girl couldn't count. They had to go to the cash box. It literally took about 20 minutes to get my little coffee and my cash. That's the other thing about using cash, right? We need to make sure our kids can count money and they know. Okay, the other big deal is they want to go all cyber. This is definitely a newer report, and it is stating cyber attacks expose flaws in cashless ambitions. Norway, Sweden, and now Israel confront the risks of over-reliance on digital systems. I mean, didn't we all call this? If it's online, anything can be hacked. That's what hackers live for, right? It's the challenge. Let me get through this. And even companies will hire hackers to say, you know, where's the back door? Find it. And so of course it's going to get hacked. This is nothing about us, having a more secure financial system. This is about government control. And as that gentleman said, if you go to the wrong rally or support the wrong party, well, no banking for you and no groceries. Right? No grocery, no soup for you. Do you ever see that one? Anyways, some of you will know what I'm talking about. All right. Texas has this really, really bold move that they made. I love the title here. Alert, Texas just proposed the biggest up yours to the Federal Reserve ever, gold and silver coins. And I won't play this video. I'm just going to go back. So yeah, they've got all these beautiful coins that they've created. And so they're actually going to back their money have silver gold backing. And that's the way it used to be. And right now, this fiat money, the cash paper that we have in our hands, because of the 1-point-something trillion deficit that Justin Trudeau and Ken Hardy and, I could go through all the Liberal list. I'd like to name them and just let's make it public. We should all get our Liberal, whoever the Liberal MPs are. I unfortunately have Ken Hardy in my writing, and we should put their face on social media and just ask people to comment, just research them a little bit. What good has this, can you tell me any good that this individual has done? I think we really need to start making them stars of their own show, and let's see what kind of reviews they get. Okay, we created this page under current issues. I think I have that open right here. You can go right here on finances, because we've had some good people coming on the show talking about finances and explaining silver and gold, the fiat system, and how to order silver and gold. I've mentioned Steve before. He's handling the orders for the members of Action for Canada. He's giving everybody a fantastic deal, best deal that you'll get. And the best part is as well that he also blesses Action for Canada with a donation as part of his sales commission. So I really encourage you, if you're going to buy from anyone, please buy from Steve. Steve's our guy. But anyways, he gives really good information on here. And of course, here is Tanner. If you know of any financial people or something you want us talking about, please send a message to call2@actionforcanada.com. We're not going to be endorsing anybody else for silver gold sales, because of course we're we've got an arrangement, a support here, I should really say, with Steve. But anybody else that can come in and actually educate Canadians in a meaningful way, Tanner will be coming back to help us out with how to spend our funds. And there was a guy that Doris just had on with the homeschool group, and he was talking also, said something like 9 kids, and he saved up $20,000 cash in a suitcase and went and bought a car with it. So if somebody can do that, right, with 9 kids, and there's great creative ways that you can save money, and we want to pass those tidbits on to you. Okay, down in the States, Republicans introduced bill to define male and female based on biological differences. Absolutely stunning, shocking, the world that we're living in. The reason I'm starting off with that is because we're going to get to the LGBTQ here. This is great, right? This is just those radical activists, all about love and equal rights. It's like their rights trump everybody else's rights. The provincial human rights commissions, tribunals, they need to be abolished. Because there's always dueling rights going on with them. And the radical trans activists seem to be the ones that are winning at times at the provincial level. And so this nasty little LGBTQ group called, where's the name of them? In this little town of Emo, they were demanding that their flag be flown during Pride Month. And it ends up that the town didn't even have a flagpole. Like, they didn't have an extra flagpole. And but anyways, didn't matter. The tribunal ended up ruling in their favor and said the mayor had to pay $10,000 in a fine. Oh, sorry, the town had to pay $10,000. The mayor had to pay $5,000, and he had to go for some radical training exercise so that he could learn how to capitulate to the socialist agenda. And anyways, this is the good news. He's refused. He's come out and said he's not doing this. And so when I posted it on my Twitter the other day, I actually provided the emails to the township and to the mayor. And I said, please send him a note of support and thank him. Let him know that he has millions of Canadians that are backing him and whatever he needs. I've been in touch with a lawyer that I know. And I said, hey, can you help this guy out? Help this little town out, because there's no way that they should get away with this. And this is where we need to come together. We need to raise the funds in order, because this is a fight worth winning. So well done to the mayor in the little town of Emo. What a funny name, eh? to go all emo. You'd think that they'd be a little more radical, but obviously they are more traditional and they respect everybody's rights, as do the residents or the mayor and council in the little town of, where is the name of it? Sorry, Barhead. Kim would know where that is. I'm not from Alberta, but I'm going to look it up. And so they voted in favor of a neutrality bylaw for municipal crosswalks and flags, which would ban pride flags and rainbow crosswalks on town property. And so this is fantastic news. That's the second town in Alberta who is doing this. This didn't happen from people sitting at home. This happened when people were lobbying their township or their municipalities and stating that this needs to be a public neutral space. Plus, I don't want tax dollars wasted on this, on all this preferential treatment. People are really hurting right now financially, and it's just enough of all of this. People are done with it, and the LGBTQ should back off because they're really only hurting themselves. This is really just the beginning. It's just unraveling for them. This is also in Campbell River. And if we don't stand up, if we don't boycott organizations like Starbucks and Tim Hortons, this is what happens. And in this particular one, they are willingly allowing a hairy chest man to come into the women and children's change room and do whatever he likes. It says here he's in tiaras, sparkles, and frills. Can you imagine little girls going in with their moms who loves tiara, sparkles, and frills? This is a predator coming into a woman's space. He is not a woman, and he has no right being in that space. And so, you know what? To get the community funding, there should be massive campaigns against this. I don't live in Campbell River, but I'm telling you, we have an amazing chapter leader, Diane, in Campbell River, and she was already all over this and sending me information on it, saying we should boycott them. And absolutely, you don't need Action for Canada telling you to do this. You start getting people together and you start the boycotting. But hopefully it's happening through a chapter. The reason we need to take this is because they can escalate if we don't put a stop to it. And this father has lost a huge battle. This was over years. This particular father, he lost custody. He had twin boys, and his ex-wife is going to put the son on puberty blockers. I think he's 16 or 17 years old now. They'll go ahead and do mutilating surgery, and I can just imagine how that exhausted and how discouraged that father is. He says, maybe I'll see them when they grow up. But this wicked woman thinks she won this battle and is going to go ahead and support her son's transition. And parents' rights are, in a very delicate place right now. And in Canada, we are fighting like crazy in provinces across Canada for parental rights and to protect our children. So another good reason to really support Action for Canada financially. If you can become a monthly donor, please do that. We have got so many good, effective campaigns and resources. Nobody in Canada, other than Action for Canada, has the type of resources and campaigns that we do in pushing back. And we know we're successful. We're talked about in provincial legislatures, and we've overturned amazing things like SOGI 123. It's just a reminder in Saskatchewan we can get this work done, but we need your financial support in order to do it. Okay, so this week you might have heard all about the stuff going on in Montreal, and I saw this article and I was just like, man, those Muslims, these activists, I tell you, they're sneaky. And they're clever, the enemy of my enemy is the enemy of my enemy as my friend, and like until they're not. And so here they're using the Jews as, this, I don't say as patsies, I guess, in order to continue to go, Palestine in the streets and break our windows and destroy things. And so I've just sort of said, warm up the engines of the cargo planes. Like, let's just start shipping them out. They don't belong here. These are terrorists in our streets. And the reason, this is the actual article. Look at this man. I mean, that's a Muslim saying Jews say stop something in Israel. Okay, like, are you kidding me? This guy hates Jews. So how can they say they're locking arms with the Jewish community in Canada against, what's going on in Palestine? It makes no sense to me. And their violence is evidence that they're not sincere in this. They are not out there in a meaningful, thoughtful way, respecting Canadians and the gift they have from being in this country. It's a privilege to live here, not a right. These people don't have a right here. And that's why I say if they got citizenship, if they're here temporary, revoke it. If they're getting refuge here, you've burnt your bridge. You need to go back to where you came from. And that was very much what happened in Montreal, evidenced in Montreal. According to the Toronto Sun, in the last year, Montreal has endured the most anti-Semitic hate crimes of any city in North America. And since Hamas massacre in Israel on October 7th a year ago, anti-Semitic incidents in Canada have increased by an astounding 670%. This is disgraceful. This is disgusting. This man is disgusting. All right. They know what they're doing, bringing the Palestinians in here to commence war against Canadians. It's not just the Jews, because they're coming after all of us. And this is evidence. Toronto's first Muslim deputy mayor, Asma Malik, calls for pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants. She needs to be removed. She's a threat to this nation. She has previously been in videos supporting terrorism, supporting the Palestinians. How in the world did she qualify to run for office? This is why you need to be very, very involved in the elections, and we need to push to have all foreigners removed from office. That is not an exaggeration. And it's not unreasonable. Standing with, that's right. She was at events standing with Hezbollah. Now, let's bring it a little closer to Alberta. So there's something I just learned about called Canadian Halal Financial Corporation. Muslim Canadians get more alternatives to mortgages, avoiding interest. Here it is again. Sorry, that was the anti-Semitic stuff in Montreal. I had meant to go here. Look at that. An endorsement by none other than Daniel Smith. With Alberta's innovative approach to enable halal mortgages, more people may be able to access mortgage lending services in this province. Well, let's go one more. This fella, Thomas, he's the CEO. Okay, he was former deputy premier, endorsed by, I understand, Daniel Smith. He's born in Poland. He's you could say he's a white guy, and now he's CEO at Halal Financial Corporation. So what is going on here? This is Canada, and they say this is Sharia law. This is disturbing to me. It's very concerning. As well, this is, if you didn't believe me before, this is MAC. They are the ones, Muslim Association of Canada, who are currently under investigation by CIA for funding of terrorism. They need to be designated as a terrorist organization, and all of their schools need to be shut down in Canada. I had one more. Federal government adds Yemen-based. That's right. So the Houthis have now been added to the terrorist list in Canada. Whatever that means, Trudeau doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. But I believe that MAC and the Muslim Brotherhood, they have ties. It is reported that MAC has ties. There's been evidence provided. And so how they're still running as an organization and why they're permitted to launch all of these schools in Canada really perplexes me. This is back from 2014. We've known it for a long time, decades, that this has been a problem. Muslim Brotherhood has a significant presence in Canada, in our Liberal government, okay, not in elected positions across this nation. And, okay, so in study urging probe into the group. Has Canada designated them as a terrorist organization so that we can shut down all the organizations that are fully funding them and tied to them? That would be a good start. That's the Islamic schools alone in Ontario, including MAC. This should concern you. We need to shut down all manifestations of Islam in Canada. Please look up under current issues, Action for Canada's political radical Islam page. You will be so well educated. This is not racism. This is not hate towards moderate Muslims. This is a fight for the survival of Canada. And in order to do that, we need to shut down every mosque, every temple, every Islamic center, and every school that is tied to terrorism. And let's see what's left in the end. And then talk to me about how racist I am. Please sign our petition to put a full stop on mass immigration and demand a moratorium until we can get everything regarding immigration sorted out, until we can deal with all the cultures forcing their failed system of governance into our beautiful nation. We are in a fight for the life of Canada and for the future of our children and grandchildren. Okay, again, please donate to Action for Canada. If the work that we're doing, you can say, man, that is significant. Tanya, thank you so much to you and your team for the hard work that we're doing, not only at national, but at all of the communities across the nation where we have chapters. And please know as well, there's lots of people who don't have a chapter in their region, but who are still using our incredible resources during COVID, was to get masks off their children, stop vac stations, keep their jobs, etc., and using them currently to make sure their teachers aren't teaching radical, sexual, deviant material and passing that on to their children and just mixing up their minds and leading them down a very dark path. So if all of our work means something to you, then please make a donation today and become a monthly donor. Okay, next week I will be on the Empower Hour. And again, I encourage you to come and listen. I am going to have a lineup of the wins. I love building the picture of what it looks like when I say we are winning and how these wins are advancing and more wins are on the way. But we really do need your help. And I'm not just talking financial there. We need you to show up. We need 1 million active Canadians, and we could turn this over so fast. We really could. Okay, we had Brian Peckford on tonight. We were talking about this being a Christian nation and how important that is to our existence and our freedom. And I had found this. You can, I had it in the report that went out on Monday with the weekly news update and the invitation for Honorable Peckford coming on. And I just love it. It's just more evidence of Canada being a Christian nation. As you just go scroll down and see throughout Parliament all of the Bible verses that are on windows and monuments and buildings and the buildings themselves. It's absolutely incredible. So I'm going to quote a few of them, but I saw this sign, Dominion of Canada. In this room in 1866-7, delegates presenting the provinces of Canada, Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, under the chairmanship of the late Right Honourable Sir John A. Macdonald, PC, I won't read all that, framed the Act of Union under which all British North America except Newfoundland is now united under one government as the Dominion of Canada. Isn't it just disgusting that the natives and the immigrants that really, you know, I mean, Black people are coming here and claiming slavery and accusing us of colonialism. It's like, well, why don't you just go back to where you came from then? Why are you here, smearing us and saying all these hateful things and tipping over John A. Macdonald? Nobody was perfect, but we truly don't know all the details of what took place when the Europeans came here. We're getting more of that information. We're getting more educated, but it wasn't a picnic. And they created a very good society for us. And for that, I'm very, very appreciative. And we need to re-erect the John A. Macdonald statues and undo the damage of the last 9.5 years under 9 years of Justin Trudeau. So the reason I talked about specifically the Dominion is because here on the building, it says he, God creator, God of the Bible, he shall have dominion also from sea to sea. And that's the dominion they were speaking about here in 1866-7. So praise the Lord for everything that our fathers of Confederation, so gifted us with, and it's our time to fight to protect and preserve it. In closing, Proverbs 29:18 says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keeps the law, happy is he." And the law would be the word of God and proclaiming that Jesus Christ is Lord over Canada. So anyways, that's it. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen now. I just want to thank you so much for joining me for the weekly news update. And we do all of it on a Wednesday night. We do the Empower Hour and the weekly news update because that's when our production team is together and to make the best time of the cost of this and of our team's time. And so there are many people that stick with us, and I always want you to know I really appreciate that. So please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and by subscribing to our Rumble channel, and then also sharing this information as far and wide as you can. So thank you. God bless you. God bless Canada. And I'll see you next week.
Do you want to look great and protect your rights? Join Action for Canada with our stylish protective gear. Our slim fit women's t-shirts are like a second skin, giving you the power to tackle any challenge. Made from a super soft blend of 90% cotton and 10% polyester, it's perfect for your everyday heroes that want to tell the world that they have had enough. Our men's t-shirts are like your everyday armor. Same quality, same comfort, and designed to keep your heroic look intact. And if you need extra protection, our mid-weight hoodies are here to save the day. With a pre-shrunk blend of 60% cotton and 40% polyester, these hoodies are your trusty sidekick against the cold. Plus, the pouch pocket is perfect for storing snacks because every hero needs their fuel. Deflect negativity with our 11-ounce ceramic mugs. They're dishwasher and microwave safe and perfect for holding your favorite beverage or your morning dose of justice. Our 100% cotton canvas shopping totes with double carry handles and prints on both sides. These totes can carry your groceries and your mission to save the planet. Stay warm and stylish with our form-fitting toques. Perfect for winter adventures. Made from acrylic and polyester, they fit most sizes with an adjustable cuff, keeping your brain warm for all those brilliant ideas. And don't forget our 6-panel structured caps, designed to protect your head from too many UV rays or bad hair days. Every purchase helps support our movement to protect Canadian rights. Visit Action for Canada now and gear up for the fight so together we can protect what matters most and help make a difference.
I'm going to say God bless you and God bless Canada.